So Sam Altman sells AGI to get cheap capital to build pretty basic AI. Elon sells Mars to get cheap capital to build space internet. And like, more power to them, but it is all marketing. And if you buy it, you're crazy.
So you don't abide by the needing to flee this planet after we've destroyed it rationale to space.
I think the Elon Mars narrative is like straight out of science fiction, and it's a great vision, but it's also, we're not even close.
I've read some SpaceX reports. I think we are closer than you'd think, Sam. Not that we're all going to go to Mars, but that we are going to make significant
Brit,
progress in the next 10 years.
Brit, this has been a
learn
10
more
years
about
ago.
Mars. Put some sort
Sam,
of
what do you think about
10 years ago, Elon was saying we're going to be at Mars within...
We don't need to devolve into this.
The editors are going to hate editing this.
Well, hello, friends. Welcome to this week's More or Less. How is everyone doing?
It's a busy week.
I like your bookshelf.
Like, I'm in my office, yes, because we're taping in a different moment.
I'm in my office too. Does that mean ski season's over?
Sam's in the pool house. It's like we're all back in our places.
We have 2 more trips. Praying for snow this weekend. Guys, ski season might be over.
No, it's just heli season starting.
Oh yeah, heli ski season.
Oh, Sam, of all the things one could say.
Resort season is ending and heli season is starting.
I went on Technology Brothers podcast yesterday and made sure to let them know that no self-respecting capital allocator skis an icon pass.
Okay.
Did they clip that? I like that. I like those guys. I had fun. I messaged them on Wednesday about my billboard. I was like, I'm going to come talk about your billboard. And they were like, yeah, just come on in an hour. And we had a great bullshit session.
Did my cameo make it from Pool House when I came to deliver your mail?
It did.
Oh, good. Okay.
I like those guys.
The funny thing is I got a lot of notes I made some snarky comments about how SoftBank is the worst investor ever and Moss is crazy. And the number of well-known venture capitalists who emailed me afterwards, being like, that's really funny. I was laughing. I've been telling my team this forever, but I can't believe you said it in public was gratifying.
Sam says the things that people don't want to say in public.
Yeah, Sam, the number of people that came up to me at Y Combinator yesterday and said, I can't believe that Sam Lessin says insert comment here in public was pretty astounding.
That could be good for your next billboard, Sam.
I'm fine with it. Oh no, guys, there is a new billboard.
There's a new billboard. So first, I just want to set the stage for listener. There's been a lot of news this week. So we are going to go through a lot of it. But to set the stage, Sam, you talk about your news. Maybe I'll end the pod with some of my news.
I don't have any news, but there's,
No, you have a billboard.
Wait, there's another billboard?
There's another billboard.
I can't metabolize the speed of the billboards.
No, it's kind of like Doge. Kevin approves the high level concept, but then has no editorial oversight over what we slot in. That's why a digital billboard was very important. We had the high level approved, and then we can just kind of rapid fire them. So no, there's a new. I don't even want to break it. It's great.
Oh, you're not going to tell people the content? You're going to save that?
They should should drive on the 101 and see the content.
Okay. As a reminder, everybody, it's on if you're going north, it's past SFO, right?
By the way, it's always great when the billboard has such high impact advertising. You need to advertise the billboard. That means the billboards really work.
Wait, it's going out of Silicon Valley, not going into Silicon Valley?
No. Well, there was a whole thing. You could buy 2 sides of the billboard on one side. We bought one side, but then we're flipping which side it's on.
Which direction am I driving? Am I going into the heart of the beast or out?
Now we were on from the airport. We were on from the airport to the city. Now we're on from the city to the South Bay.
Oh.
Okay, good. All right, good.
But that just switched.
Speaking of which, I hope you all saw the breaking Waymo news this week. Did everyone see this?
Yes.
Okay. You may remember close followers of my Instagram at @JLesson. Please follow me. Great content. Will know that I dabble as a Waymo reporter. And in fact, I now have many fans who exclusively send me messages on my Waymo content. So you can expect more of it. And I see them because I'm constantly commuting up and down the peninsula. I really, see them out in the wild. And I can sense when something's up, when there's a shift in the Waymo universe. I also, outside my office in the design district in San Francisco, see 20 to 30 a day, no joke. So I think that part of San Francisco where it's very open is like very popular. So last week I noticed that there were some on the peninsula with drivers, but like I'd never seen them before. And then I also noticed unmanned on the highway. And lo and behold, Waymo announced this week opening up Palo Alto, Menlo Park, Los Altos, and I think one other. So this is the first time outside of San Francisco. And I hear that the route from San Francisco to SFO, the airport, is also very close. So this is very exciting.
The thing I don't understand is that when you're the only person who uses Lyft, like you are 100% of Lyft's business.
I think I'm their only customer. Yes.
And so, but you're a very good customer. And the thing I don't understand is that none of the hedge fund bots immediately responded to this news and just shorted the Lyft is only down 50% on the year because and it should be down 100% because you're like their only customer and you're going to have no use for them soon.
I have determined that commuting from my house to my office, I prefer Lyft is just cheaper and I do it a lot and it's not an insignificant expense. So I go with the cheaper option, but Waymo would change the game. I also when I'm out of town for the summer, I do worry about Lyft a little bit. So
I have a selfish business idea for Waymo for all of us in Marin who don't get Waymos to SFO. I think that they should take over our parking garage in like the Presidio, whatever the closest one is to the Golden Gate Bridge, and allow us Marin people park there and just store a bunch of Waymos there. Because I had to go to SJC yesterday. I go to SFO all the time, and I would like to take part in this Peninsula Waymo era that we're in, but we can't. Yeah, it's not fair to the Marin people. So every time I see this news, I'm actually a little more depressed.
Here's the thing. You know how much the rest of the world cares about the Marin people and what's fair for them? Zero.
That's why I led with this is a selfish plug.
I think they might care less about the Hillsborough people, just to be clear.
No, you like Patagonia, Patagucci wearing, pizza eating.
But this is where I remind Sam we have a home in West Marin.
Yeah, it's fair. You do have a home in Billionaires.
We exude all cultures. We're not culture specific.
On the topic of Waymo, I do have to say that props to Larry Page because I remember...
someone reads the information. Huh.
There's that, but I remember early 2010s having a conversation with Larry Page. And I just, big props to him because I remember early 2010s him saying like the idea of being able to ride a self-driving car around the South Bay between Stanford and Google would be really, really amazing. And so when I saw that map, I was just like, wow, like this is what dreaming in Silicon Valley, if you've got the kind of cojones to go do it, this is what it looks like.
I had the same reaction, Dave. I honestly did too. And I think one of the reasons I love Waymo so much is that like it is real cool new technology that is here that people are using that you don't even have to squint and see and experience and think about. And, I will say that's also the power of a monopoly because what like the amount of, and one of the big questions now, and I don't know the answer to this, but it's obviously very important is what are the economics around Waymo at this moment?
It's fine. SoftBank will pay for it.
I think I was going to say smarter than that, but, and I did report this week or last week, but updated this week too, getting behind the keyboard again a little bit about Larry's new company called Dynatomics, which is a very research-focused effort to use AI to build flying cars as a first case for how you can go from models to manufacturing. So
I was bummed that his flying motorcycles never took off. I wanted a flying motorcycle.
Well, he's done a lot of these, right? And it's also cool that our, pod listener, Chris Anderson, is working with him on the project. And
well, look, when your number one problem in life is how do you somehow hide like billions and tens and hundreds of billions of dollars of profit so the government doesn't get mad by investing in projects. Like, it's good.
But that's not Google, right? Like, this is a Larry Page project, right?
Yeah, this is now a very separate thing. But
I think we should have Chris on the pod and talk about the future of manufacturing.
We should have Chris on the pod. That would be really fun. But guys, Google's coming back with a vengeance because Eric Schmidt's also becoming a CEO again. What do we think about this news?
Schmidt took over relativity space. Did I have too many syllables in there?
No, relativity space. Correct.
So we've got Bezos, Musk, and Schmidt. And you know what it reminded me of? There was a tech conference probably 15 years ago, 20 years ago, where they had, and I even forget who they were, but they had these four. Schmidt was one, Bezos was one, I guess would it have been Ballmer at the time for Microsoft? I can't remember, but they did like a 4 horsemen of the apocalypse kind of chat. And I'm like, we're 1 horseman away from the space apocalypse here.
Well, is how much of the story is that like all these guys are just partied out? Like, they've had so much fun over the last 20 years. It's like time to go back to work.
But like choosing rockets, like, come on, who cares?
What else are you going to choose?
No, I think we're poised for a new space age, Dave. Don't you think?
But like rockets, there's so much more interesting stuff to do in space.
Well, but how you got to get there?
There's a lot of stuff going to space. Like, there's a lot of rocket companies. I don't know. It just seems uncreative to me.
That's true. There seem to be a lot of rocket ones, but
I mean, here's the question: what is more overfunded in terms of like stuff? Is it people building? Is it AI or is it rockets?
It's definitely AI.
yeah.
What about relative to the potential market size?
That's a hard one.
I think I mean, again, this is not my area of expertise, but I've been talking to some reporters in this area and learning a lot. Like, by any measure, there is going to be another next space industrial age. It may not be humans. It could be, but it could just be defense. It could be satellite. I mean, that seems kind of interesting.
Look, you're right, Jess. We actually do a lot in space and understand the space market pretty well. And that's what I'm saying is that like the launch component of space.
You understand the space?
Indeed. The launch component of space is actually that part of the supply chain is pretty good right now. There's a lot more to be done like in the various orbits and there's a lot of competition.
But like what, Dave, let me push you on that. What? So my understanding is that a lot of the companies that started out doing quote unquote stuff in orbit have just become like more launch companies, right?
No, it's the other direction. No,
I don't know. Like Varda, et cetera, has kind of gotten into the launch game from the drug game.
Can you guys just explain a little bit the difference? So the launch game is obviously launching stuff.
Put thing in space.
Right. And right now you can put satellites. What other things are people putting in space? Image cameras?
Well, there's a lot of work around, different types of sensors, different types of space vehicles. There's a lot of propulsion work. How do you move around satellites in space once they're up there? There's various different orbits, low Earth orbit, geosynchronous orbit. And to be able to move between the different orbits is a huge thing. There's also a lot going on in super low Earth. And how do you propel things when the atmosphere is different molecular structure?
Look, I invested ages ago remember Natalia's company that was doing ion drives?
Sam, we were in Astra.
Yeah, I seeded Astra.
We were in the launch game long before anybody else.
Well, no, not before everyone else.
And didn't you see these tech CEOs at those parties? I remember you'd come back from rocket parties and you'd be like...
But this is the thing about Astra. Astra, when I kind of like put a seed check in there, right? Like, it was a great, crazy thing. They're like, people are overpaying to get these payloads up, right? Like, fuck it. We'll let them fail at some crazy high rate relative. We don't need to guarantee like 10 nines of success. We'll let them blow up all the time, but they'll be super cheap. And that was like a fun thesis that got them going. But I guess the question for me is like, look, the one space use case that seems freaking awesome. And like, I say this as someone who, even I had to buy Tesla stock. I'm sorry, SpaceX stock. I think SpaceX is an incredible company. Is like the internet space shit is fucking sweet. Like Starlink's an amazing product.
We should point out that Starlink has been losing customers left, right, and center at the moment. So
to who?
To people canceling it because of its proprietor.
Oh, just because of the proprietor.
That's dumb.
I'm just saying, maybe it's dumb, but it's happening. But continue.
That's like anyone who bought. Here's the thing I'd say. Like, I understand the like Elon trading out Teslas because you don't like Elon right now. Fine, I get that. That makes sense. That was always Tesla in my mind has always been a meme stock and a meme product anyway. But like SpaceX and Starlink is not like, because there's no substitute. Like if your marginal use for Starlink is so marginal that you're going to be mad at Elon and cancel Starlink on principle, then you probably didn't have a very good use for Starlink in the first place, right? Like it's just not like there's no substitute even close, right? So like it's an incredible product and an incredible company.
We should say Amazon's launching. Oh, I should know. It begins with a K. Amazon satellite. Coopier.
Whatever. There'll be others, but I'm just saying, like, I get the internet space, but Dave, Brit, I mean, like, look, I put a personal small check in a Varda SPV because like space is sweet and like space manufacturing sounds cool, but like that's not production level, right? Stuff, right? Not even close yet. Like, what do you see as like the space use cases other than like moving, like the basics of propulsion and whatever, which again, like reliant on doing something with it? Like, what's so exciting?
Defense.
Defense, but we've also got other versions of what Starlink is doing, right? There are many different ways to communicate.
So more space internet.
Yeah, like we've got a company called Hubble that we're involved with that does Bluetooth from low Earth orbit. So you can put a Bluetooth chip on anything from a container to a cow, literally, and track basically anything. You're moving a lot smaller amounts of data, but high frequency, very low cost.
Well, and for things like asset tracking or agriculture monitoring or wildfire detection, like there are a lot of things to be doing from space in that regard.
I get it in theory. It just seems...
Does Sam like anything fun, Jess?
No, I like lots of fun things. But you know why people like rocket companies? Because they look fucking sweet.
Yeah, but not a good business does that make.
I don't think that's what the diligence memo says. They look cool. Let's invest.
No, it definitely, like, trust me. A lot of this is like, it's like, you know why? Like, everyone's like, how do we get, it's like, because this is fucking sweet, right? Like, you like sit there and you like watch a rocket take off and you're like, that is like a peak human. I'm gonna be sexist. That's like a male experience. You're like, look what I have done. I have manifested rocket to space.
Because it looks like a giant.
Yeah, I'm sending my dick into space.
Yeah, it's masculine energy, let's be real. It's like these guys can't think of anything more interesting to do than send their masculine energy into space.
Well, it's I used to love ESTA rockets as a kid because it's fucking sweet. It's fire and explosions.
It's still sweet. Haven't you done that with your kids?
Of course I have. So the basic point is like, I get that as like, if I'm like a billionaire and I'm like, this is super fun and there's a business case around it, sure, right? I think it's a lot cooler than like a Poindextery chatbot, right? If you're just like in the male experience. But then like ion drives, sure, you can like slow the decay of things, or maybe ideally for defense, you can argue you can zip little things around, intercept other satellites, and maybe space war is cool. But like, I don't know. I feel like space is kind of like overheated in terms of all these quote unquote use cases because none of them really make that much sense.
The defense use cases are super real, right? Like, we know that Israel has what, is known as the Iron Dome. We know we can't use that kind of technology to track hypersonics. And so in order to track like modern warfare, which is going to drones and hypersonics, you have to have space sensors in order to do this.
Sure. But like war is kind of a cheating answer, Dave, because it's a war of attrition.
No, it's not. It's a real business.
I'm not saying it's not. I'm just saying it's like not like a fun, like war doesn't make humans better. It's a war of attrition by definition, where like you have to spend a lot of money on it, but it's not better for humans. It's just more spending.
But are you talking as an investor, you can make money on things that they're spending on.
I'm just saying, like, I can come up with any technology and sell it to the North Koreans and the Americans in some form, and then be like, I can personally profit off of that. It's like war sales 101. Like, yes, I read a book recently about how like the North Koreans definitely have like an EMP sitting over the US, and how all these things about like nuclear war are like totally overblown because like one EMP just will like destroy America in 5 years, right? Like, so like, yes, we can fearmonger, we can sell weapons. Weapons are infinitely sellable, fine. Internet, super cool. What else is practically useful about space other than it being an amazing launch my penis to space game?
And so you don't abide by the needing to flee this planet after we've destroyed it rationale to space.
I think the Elon Mars narrative is like straight out of science fiction. He's very, very good at reading science fiction and repackaging it. And it's a great vision, but it's also, we're not even like close. Like that's not even close.
I think we are closer than you'd think, Sam. Like I think in the next 10 years.
No way.
Not that we're all going to go to Mars, but that we are going to make significant progress in the next 10 years to learn more about Mars, put some sort of infrastructure on Mars.
10 years ago, Elon was saying we're going to be at Mars within 10 years.
This is what the SpaceX reports are saying. I'm telling you.
Who's owned by Elon, Brit? It's like we can't even shield humans on the journey to Mars from radiation, let alone anything else. Like we're so far away from getting humans to Mars. Like everyone, you're up there applauding like this like window of we're going to get to Mars in Trump's administration. And it's absolute horseshit. Like there aren't even launch windows open for that to happen.
I think we should have a SpaceX person come on the pod.
I'm a SpaceX shareholder. I love SpaceX. I have millions of dollars personally in SpaceX because I think it's an amazing fucking company. It's what they can do is amazing. They're ahead of everyone. And by the way, Starlink is fucking sweet. So like I'm all in on SpaceX, but this is the same thing so Sam Altman sells AGI to get cheap capital to build pretty basic AI. Elon sells Mars to get cheap capital to build space internet. And like more power to them, but it is all marketing. And if you buy it, you're crazy.
Sam is just a contrarian. So Sam's view on space, that what was just articulated, will change with time. I mean, his views, as I'm sure you've noticed on AI, have evolved. Let's just say they've evolved.
No, they haven't.
They've evolved.
No, they have not. You can go. The nice part of me is I write everything out, so you can look at my thing from 2 years ago, and I said the big platforms are going to win, and tiny companies that get more efficient are going to win, and everyone else is fucked. That is what's played out, and you shouldn't invest in startups.
I didn't say they've reversed. I'd say they've evolved. They've just evolved in response to the landscape.
No, I'd say that I don't evolve at all. I'd say like.
That I can also validate, yes, unfortunately.
I'm very proud. Like 10 years ago, in 2014, was the first bubble of people being excited about self-driving cars. And everyone was like, oh, it's coming in 2 years. And I actually wrote, good news, I write things down and put them in public. I wrote to me like, we're 10 years away from any sort of this. And at the time, it was like, you're so crazy, you're far out. I'm exactly right. It's been 10 years. You kind of have like old people in self-driving cars.
This is the Sam licks the cookie segment of the podcast, where Sam is making sure to take credit for the things that he wrote down.
That's why I write them down.
And here we are in space. You also encouraged me to do more space coverage. So why do you think?
Because you're in the media business and people want to read about it. Because the Morons want to read about it and they'll pay you for it. So sure.
I feel like we should wager some bets about space soon.
Brit, I will bet you $1 million there will not be humans on Mars in the next 10 years.
I'm not saying humans. I'm saying infrastructure on Mars.
Whatever. You can put anything anywhere. There's already robots on Mars. It doesn't mean anything.
I would like to play out a 10 and 20 year strategy with you and then put money on it.
10 years, $1 million. Yes or no?
I'm gonna say infrastructure on Mars.
Oh, bullshit. That means no.
And then 2040. $1
million 2040?
There are some humans on Mars in 2040.
Okay, deal. 2040 $1 million.
Right, there aren't going to be humans on Mars in 2040.
Not like living there. There are going to be people that can go to Mars.
I'm texting with Jess what the side hedge is going to be.
The good news, Brit, on this for you is that there's going to be so much inflation by 2040 that like it won't be that much money. But like, I'm happy to bet you $1 million in 2040.
Elon Musk says there are 1 million people on Mars in 2040. I'm just saying there's one.
I agree. $1 million that a human has been on Mars by 2040.
Like set foot, like planted the flag, like boot on sand.
Like literally went out of a spaceship, like hung out, did a little dance, and I'll bet you $1 million.
Okay. I think I'll take it. Report back to me in 15 years.
If that's not a more or less bet, I don't know what is.
You guys, we are approaching our 100th episode. We're probably 8 or 9 away. So
that's why you have to bet $1 million.
Okay. I do want to talk about TikTok. And I know I see the eyes rolling because my compatriots love this story. But there are some important developments from the information. So Trump said last week that there are 4 bidders. Newsflash, there's really one serious player in this, which is Oracle. Newsflash, Oracle doesn't really have the money to do this.
Yes, they do.
Well,
I mean, they have access. They have access to the money to do this, right?
yes. No, they do. Let me finish. But the most important part, and we had a story today on this that anyone following this should read, is what the this is. Because what seems to be the case here is that ByteDance thinks it's still going to be operating TikTok after this deal. And so my prediction is that whatever ends up transacting here is going to look like a services company. It's going to have the data. Maybe it'll have a little bit of revenue ops or eng. But I think this is the needle that now everyone's trying to thread. So what's your hot take, Dave?
My hot take is, does it even matter anymore since Meta's algorithms have basically become TikTok's algorithms? So TikTok has accomplished the mission and it doesn't matter if it exists anymore.
So you're not worried about them slowly changing the algorithm so they can take over Taiwan and not have anyone care?
I think that the damage has already been done.
And the damage being to teen mental health or kid mental, yeah.
Yeah. Well, no, it's not just mental health. I just think like culturally, the damage that needed to be done has been done. And you're watching it play out in all corners of culture. And so, yes, Sam, you're right. Like the algorithm will evolve and go different places, but the weapon worked and sort of took American culture pretty far off course. And, does it even matter anymore?
That is an interesting perspective. It does matter to Trump, though, because Trump, the deal maker, among many other things he has cooking, is clearly invested in declaring a win here.
In what way? Like in getting a deal done?
Yeah, well, this is all about leverage with China, right?
I believe it's pronounced China.
Which China knows too. And so obviously tariffs are the word of the day, and this is squarely in the middle of it. But Trump just wants as much leverage as possible. But I think his announcement that this was moving forward does jive with like the conversations we hear are happening. Some private consortium is going to end up owning.
China seems to be there's like a back seat, I guess, other than the tariffs, right? Like the China narrative seems to be like undercover right now.
There are just so many narratives.
Yeah, I think that's it too. So
it's like, which narrative do you want to pay attention to? Look, Larry Ellison owning TikTok would be hilarious, which kind of makes me think it would happen. Because like you think the guy has I've never seen him on social media, let alone dancing.
I did see him talking to Bill Gates sitting next to each other at Indian Wells, and I'm sure they were talking about this instead of the amazing Alcaraz match. So,
Sam, what do you think the new price point's going to be if Ellison buys it? What do you think he's going to pay?
Who cares? It's all made up anyway.
Well, last time we talked about it, you were under the impression that you could pay pretty much nothing for it because it's, you just need to make a deal. So I'm just curious if your views have changed as to what TikTok might be worth.
I think, look, the ultimate thing on this is I think everyone's just fatigued on all of these stories, right? Like, I don't even care anymore. And I'm the one who cares the most, right? Like, it's like, whatever. Like, it's if there's some, we know that there's, I think is what would be great would be the dramatic, like we as a society decided that we don't want a foreign government controlling such a critical piece of infrastructure to like controls like so much, right, of youth attention and belief and et cetera. That would be the bold statement of being like, this is just not a thing we want anymore. We clearly are like not in that zone. We're in some zone of some weird ass deal making, right, for slices of whatever and infrastructure and blah, blah, blah. And then your eyes just glaze over. And by the way, this is not a bad media strategy, right? Which is like you just throw everything against the wall. And then people like me get bored in the details, right? Because it's like, it's not really meaningful. There's no real statement to it. It's just some, and then by the way, once that happens and everyone stops paying attention because it's too boring, then all the chips get shuffled, right? And so like, I think that's like a lot of what's going on in a lot of places is, there's a lot of different narratives where like, there's some bold statement. It's Greenland, it's China, it's whatever, right? And everyone's like, wow, that would be like really dramatic if we made XYZ true statement, or it's tariffs, right? It's like, wow, 25% headline, whatever. And then you put enough of these out there, everyone fatigues on it. Some backroom deals get cut. They're whatever, right? And that's kind of, I think, what's going on in a lot of places.
Isn't this the Trump media strategy 101? Like this is, you just throw a bunch of shit out there and everyone can't track it.
Yeah, it's the Joker, right? It's chaos. It's chaos as a strategy, right?
Why are the markets so anxious about this? Why are they down so much? Why has recession talk really picked up?
Because everyone thought that there were red lines, like Trump make number go up. And when it's like, well, maybe, and then we're like, what the fuck? Now everything just is very untethered. Markets hate uncertainty, right? And there's a lot of uncertainty. It's not that complicated.
I mean, I also think there's a pretty close pattern match to the 80s when Reagan was elected. Like, if you remember, Reagan was elected, every state in the country went red. Paul Volcker, and the reason the whole country went red was that Carter presided over an incredible inflationary period. And this is the same thing that happened under Biden. Inflation was absolutely insane. And so that gave rise to a populist red president, right? And the first thing that happened in the 80s was that Volcker was like, listen, we need to ratchet up rates like dramatically. And I believe they took them up to 20% in order to just like really jam down inflation and make sure that inflation was through the floor before they actually started lowering rates and moving the economy back to risk on. And it looks to me like the same thing is happening right now. We've already exhausted the monetary side policies in terms of the Fed was already working on lowering inflation before Trump came into office. And it's stubbornly kind of sticking around. And so they have to start using the tools of the executive to like really, really knock inflation down before they shift the economy back.
Actually, inflation came in was kind of okay when the numbers came out.
It was mid. I mean, I think if you look at it, like we need to get it down below 2%, right? And it's still not there. You're right. It did come in okay. But like if they shifted the economy back to risk on right now, I think we'd be in a pretty difficult place and be risking, moving back into a pretty dramatic inflationary period. And so I don't kind of fault them for trying to, push the economy more towards recession just to make sure that the inflation is gone.
Well, the story I've heard, which I buy, is the story of like, again, just optionality, which is like, look, what we really have to do is renegotiate the debt, right? Just renegotiate it straight up. And like, it's pretty hard to do when everything's ripping. So you're like, we'll push the economy down, then we'll just like renegotiate the debt, and then we'll come out stronger on the other side. So it's kind of like, it's the classic strategy from Top Gun, which is like you hit the brakes and they fly right by, right? Like, now whether that works or not, who knows? But
Do we think this is like a 6-month period or a 9-month period, year? Like, when do you think the economy would rip again in that scenario?
It feels hard for it to go longer than, it seems to me like it wouldn't move into next year. It might be a couple of quarters, right? But like, I don't think you can withstand unpopularity through like, I don't know, into 2026. Like, it seems like pretty difficult.
Well, nor midterms. It's just the midterms.
But I think you can't do this. I sort of think you can't do this. Like in the 80s, Volcker took all of the heat. Like people forget this. Like there were farmers driving tractors to the Fed. They were like so upset. There was like literal protests similar to what's going on with Tesla right now. And so you've got kind of a pretty powerful political heat shield in Elon right now. And so it seems to me like it's the exact same play. Like, I don't know, I studied econ, and this is like all you study in econ is what happened in this time period. And the pattern match is like identical. And so it just seems to me like that's what's going on. And you're absolutely right that by the midterms, we'll be turning things around. And that's like the timeline to expect. Now, whether or not this chaos strategy actually like causes a whole bunch of other externalities, who knows, right? Like that to me seems like the real risk is that like the cuts and kind of indiscriminate all over the place, spot inflation in various different goods and services due to tariffs, like that could have like weird externalities that like are uncontrollable, which seems like the real risk to your point about volatility, Sam.
My favorite tariff story was, in terms of the message getting across, was we got a message from an interior designer who was like, we need to order these faucets now, because if we don't, there's going to be tariffs on them. And I'm like, and then another person who's working with is like, well, what's going to be the cost of storing said faucets and fridges? Like, is the cost of storage for the 6 months until we need them worth the 20? I was like, now we're having the real economics faucets conversation.
But Sam, you might get a faucet that has no EPA regulations anymore and has, really good water pressure.
Yeah, but you just I mean, like, this is the thing. Like, those regulations are all bullshit, right? You just like put the little like thing in to pass the test, and then you rip it out and have full shower pressure.
I keep looking for a executive order about showers, since Trump has talked about that so many times over the years. Like,
Dave, are you going to fess up to being one person who removes the water dampeners to get?
Oh, absolutely. I'll fess up to it.
Dave is crazy about showers and water pressure. It's really annoying. We can't go to some hotels because of the water pressure.
Okay, so just to wrap the economy section, are any of your startups getting nervous yet? I mean, this is like a pretty strong drumbeat about a recession.
The good news about investing in startups is they're mostly, recession-proof. They're mostly off into the future. It might change capital markets, but capital markets have already been pretty difficult since the Fed started increasing rates, right? Like, the Fed really does control the cost of capital, and what the executive side tools do to the economy, doesn't affect capital that much. But I don't know, maybe it gets worse.
I think it impacts the LP ecosystem and sort of the funds much more than it impacts startups, right? So I know a lot of LPs who are like, oh shit, I just like lost a lot of money over the last couple of weeks. And so I'm rethinking my portfolio construction strategy of investing in funds. And then,
but that's nothing new, Brit. We've been in this cycle for 2 years.
I know. I told someone yesterday, I was like, yeah, welcome to the last 2 years. I think it's just that they thought they were getting out of it because at the beginning of the year, everything looked so shiny.
It's Sam's whole point, right? That like everybody got optimistic again that Trump make rich and we're going to go have a risk on Fun Fest, right? But the reality is we're not. It's going to be, another year. And so I think that's the disappointment in the market, if anything.
I could fess up. There was a period like maybe 2 weeks after the election or something when I was like, okay, the mood is definitely changing in the Valley. All these people can see down the barrel of their big liquidity events. Like, we should be trying to build anecdotes about like this. Like, it seems like a shift in the moment. And I actually asked a reporter to look into it. I was like, people are, again, it's just hope, but like there's a vibe shift to the sort of positive. And someone asked me, they're like, do you still want us to look into that? I was like, no, do not look into that. Stop looking into it. Yeah.
I would argue, Jess, there was like an 80-20. There was an 80-20, right? Like 80% of people were optimistic with, probably the wrong way to look at it, right? If you were actually looking at the smart investors, right, like Buffett and several others, they were liquidated in cash, basically starting with the election and the big hedge funds, right? So everybody who I think is a very traditional value-based investor was like, you know what? New management in town, need to get the chips into cash and sit and wait and see what the policies are going to be. And, the people who are getting super optimistic, I think were just looking at it wrong, right? And maybe don't have the experience to sort of sit and, get their chips out of the game and wait.
So I was in the camp of saying sell as much as, and didn't get my way in most places in terms of sell. I will say there is one interesting thing going on, which is I do think the cycle of, there was this thing of like the big money wins are coming, right? And so everyone's like, cool, like we should like hold on, right? And like now everyone's like, oh fuck, this is not coming. So like we're gonna have to take our licks and move on. This is from a lot of the overfunding of like the last few years to unstick things. So
at least not this year, right? I mean, maybe next year.
Hope springs eternal.
Hope springs eternal. That's what VCs have in abundance.
Look, the good news I think for the VC, because at least the early stage one, is I do think that like we're past the era of like funny money fights where like you have 1,000 little baby GPs and venture funds running around because everyone's like, whoa, like this is not happening again, right? So I do think Brit's right, and Dave's right, there's definitely an LP pullback, but I think it's actually good. I think it just means pricing goes down on things, that you're more pricing disciplined or whatever else.
I mean, I don't know, Sam. I was at YC yesterday and the pricing is really high still.
Yeah, but why would you go to YC?
It hadn't been in person in a while. They were only doing it in person. You couldn't watch it online. And I just thought I'd go by to demo day just to see, what the vibe is.
Did you buy anything?
And frankly, no, I didn't. But frankly, it's because prices are so high. Like I went in there and I'm like, wow, like we're talking 25, 30, 35, 40. Like the prices are just still too high. And so part of me is like, if you look at the real estate market, you look at even the early stage startup market, like these prices are still 20, 30%, 40% too high, right? For the progress of these companies. And so that to me just says like there's still inflation in the economy.
I think it's because they use the word agentic. The word agentic costs $25 million.
I think people are fading from agentic. I think they know it's over.
No, Brit. It was like YC was like the festival of agentic AI yesterday.
Oh, okay. Well, it's over I'm fading from agentic. I actually don't know if I was ever into agentic.
80% of YC was agentic AI for some SaaS CRM use case.
It just, what we should do? We should start a conference called Agentic AI Con. And then whoever shows up, just blacklist them. Like be like, oh, like just be like by merely show. It's like it's like a little Pied Piper move,
Look, there were some cool deep tech things. I mean, YC's always got a few great deep tech things. And there were some really cool robots.
But were there space companies?
There was There were two. And there were 4 robots. There was a robot that fixes potholes. There was a robot that pulls weeds in farms. Sam, you should actually put these robots on your farm, in your farm company.
Oh, we're not talking about the farm company yet, but it is very exciting. No, my whole thing with the farm company is that it's so high margin, it doesn't matter. Like, I definitely don't want robots on it.
Yes, everyone would like to start a business that's so high margin, it doesn't matter.
My favorite pothole fixing, do you guys remember when like Domino's fixed all the potholes?
Oh, that's funny. I forgot about that. Yeah.
That's the pothole fixing I like. By the way, Domino's, great fucking investment. Stock rips.
They fixed potholes for marketing?
Yeah, well, here's the thing. They were like, your pizza needs to be delivered. Because people don't care about potholes. They care about their pizza being good, right? And so like, look, there are all these fucking potholes. The government's not fixing them. We will just go fix the potholes. Just point out the potholes to us. Because like, it's like $5 to asphalt. Who cares, right? And so they just went around fixing all the potholes to make the pizzas better. And as a public service.
I like this. Did it work? It worked, is what you're saying.
I mean, it was great marketing, and it is very much like a good example of idiocracy future that we live in, right? Where like you have the pizza company fixing potholes.
When was this though? Wasn't it a while ago?
I don't know. Let's see. They should do more pothole fixing.
Very Japanese of them.
Well, Sam does some research. What else caught your fancy this week? Brit, you had some coding news you wanted us to discuss.
Well, there was a debate on Twitter. There was a big debate because the Anthropic CEO...
What about vibe coding?
Wait, there was a debate on Twitter?
I heard the word vibe code so many times yesterday.
So this is, Dave, I'm like really... the information has this great glossary of like weird AI terms, and we're adding vibe coding. For the listeners, how would you describe vibe coding?
Oh, it's just the idea of using AI tools to code, right? Because it's become so easy to use these AI tools to code. That's vibe coding. It's like, I'm just going to build something for myself tonight, or, I built this version of Instapaper for myself. It's been great. Like you just like build whatever you want in a night.
Okay, so back to what the CEO of Anthropic said. He said, in the next 3 to 6 months, AI is probably going to be able to write 90% of all code. And in 12 months, nearly all code may be generated by AI. And people got real saucy about this on the internet because they were like, that's BS.
This just seems like this is like obvious.
A lot of engineering people and influencers were like rioting against this. And anyways, it was a really entertaining Twitter thread if anyone wants to go check it out.
It's a great negotiation Next time I try to hire an engineer, I'm just going to point out to them that their salary should be very low.
Oof, that's rough.
It's like, look, I want to pay you more than I pay this AI, which is going to be $12 an hour.
But don't you just have fewer better engineers?
Look, doesn't mean architecture is going to be, it's like everything. Like, yes, AIs are going to write stories. Sam Altman was also tweeting this short story that he had their new AI that can do short story writing, right? It was actually pretty good.
But people hated that too. Oh my God. The rise of the authors and creators against that was big this week.
I love, Brit, that we have totally different feeds. My feed this week has just been like, it's like constantly Elon, like, and actually our good friend Amy Griffin in her new book, which we should plug later. But that has been what the internet wants me to experience this week.
My feed is all about the billionaire free caltrain.
What's that?
So basically, the caltrain came out with this thing being like advertising that it's 100% billionaire free, as like we're for the people.
That's horrible. I don't like that.
No shit, it's terrible. It's supposed to, like, I would argue, I think as the people have pointed out, it's like a good public transit system.
Mike Bloomberg takes the subway.
Yeah, a good public transit system, the billionaires should want to ride, right? It should be like so good. You're like, this is better. It's terrible marketing.
Yeah, like the bullet trains in Japan. Okay, so here's my product idea. I think that I should be able to have friends on these social platforms that I could go into their feed. Like I could go into Sam mode and just see what your feed looks like. I can't interact as you, but I just want to see what maybe I don't want it Sam mode. I would like Jess mode. I don't know what your feed's like, Sam.
There's a great SNL on this where like there's like two girls and two boys like on a double date or something, and the girls are like, hey, it'd be really fun, like let's show each other our Instagram explorers, and the guys are like, no, you cannot see my Instagram explorer.
Oh, that's funny. Of course the guys aren't.
The girls, I'd love to share mine with my girlfriends. I would like.
Oh yeah, I mean you could share it with your girlfriends, or guys can share it with guys. You just can't cross over. That's very dangerous.
Got it.
Dave, that's a business model. How much would you charge to let me see your mode, your view?
I don't want to see it.
There's no amount of money. No, I think the opposite. The business model is the opposite, which is you go to the guys and you're like, look, here's the deal. We have this new awesome feature where it's the Brit feature where you can see what other people, you can like impersonate anyone and see their feed, but only in premium mode can you stop someone from impersonating you. That is the thing that Dave and I would pay a lot of money for.
I'm so intrigued by this. I really want to know.
Well, it's exactly what you'd expect. It's like all like porny stuff. Like that is what I will click on, and therefore that is what my Instagram Explorer is.
And like probably muscle guys. It's like muscle guys and naked girls, probably.
Isn't nudity like not allowed on Instagram? I mean, this is why all the breastfeeding moms like.
I thought there were no community standards on Instagram anymore.
No, Instagram is full of borderline porn. Just full.
I mean, this isn't like a new thing. Like every social network since forever knows that bikinis are the real influencers, right? Like that's like what drives the traffic.
It just is what it is.
What do you boys think that we look at every day on Instagram?
Like knitting.
Interior design.
Well, this is a good segue. I look at tennis because, guys, I invested in a tennis magazine.
Yeah, how's it going?
I have a tennis ball here, not because I play tennis all the time, but because from working out and using my doing my cleans this morning with my trainer, I need to release my shoulder constantly, or otherwise my jaw hurts. And welcome to 41. I'm so excited for all you tennis fans out there, or just general fans of culture and lifestyle. Racket is an amazing publication. It's in print, it's digital, it's podcasts, they do events, they have great merch, founded by Caitlin Thompson. And I encountered the magazine and loved it so much, and they let me invest. So I'm excited to have led a new round into them and to be one of their largest shareholders. So go tennis.
What is their agentic strategy?
Their agentic strategy is beautiful photos and really great articles about everything you want in the world of tennis and beyond.
You should do YC Demo Day for publications.
Well, we also launched a new Lesson Media website that lists all our portfolio companies.
I saw it and I like the logo. It's really nice.
Thank you. The logo is one of my favorite things. And if you can see the resemblance to the information, Brit, you see the slash.
I like it.
See how that works? Yeah. And yeah, I'm really proud of the companies in our portfolio, and we'll definitely, we're already doing what we can to help them. And I think there's a lot more we can do.
I would be all in for Demo Day.
I would come to that, and I would like to help curate or judge something there. So just sign me up.
You'd like to judge?
Would you invest in a publication called Mars Today?
There are some non-venture scale publications that I think are really amazing and high quality and like hit a specific niche, like like all of this stuff is like Racket. So
I'll only invest if they have a real magazine.
Dave, you started this with Dwell Magazine. You're like OG print media mogul. So
Yeah, I love it. And if it weren't for the actual, by the way, if it weren't for the print magazine, we would have never made it through the pandemic with 12. So
I wish they had arrived yet, but there's a new issue out. Taylor Fritz is on the cover. And it is the travel issue, and it is just awesome. And not to be that media person, but when I'm reading Racket or Surfer's Journal or any of these magazines, it's like an amazing, relaxing experience that is so much better from staring at my phone. And I do both, but just taking that whatever amount of time, I feel calm, I feel inspired, I feel ready to seize the day.
it's part of the quit social media movement, Jess.
It just has a great, it fills my soul. And I think it does. Racket has a very large community. And I get it. And I think they also do beautiful work on social as well, but there's just something about it. And then all those things, it's great marketing. So you have to be careful about it. I was being interviewed by the New York Times about the investment in some of my other deals. And the reporter said to me, he's like, you're known as like a good business person. Why are you doing this? And I was like, well, that's a leading question. But I mean, the way Racket can monetize, I actually have never, in the information and media, I think a lot of, obviously you need the subscription core. And then there are other things like advertising, B2B that you can add on.
Yeah, were you like, good business people know their audience, and I know my audience would like this?
Well, also, I mean, the honest answer is Racket. I love all publications where you have real expertise and insider access and a clear audience. And Caitlin was, she's a 5-0 tennis player. For those who play tennis, she's incredible. Hit with her for the first time and survived. So we're really happy about that. And she knows this world, right? She calls up Billie Jean King. Like she is of tennis, from understanding league play to collegiate play to all the biggest stars, to just like the joy of it. And that's what makes a great business in media. And by the way, their events are like, they do these Racket House events where people play and gather, and there's just this great communities, and people pay a lot for them. So, and they've got big stuff planned at the US Open, et cetera, et cetera. So anyway, I'm really excited about it. So tennis fans, hit me up. There's going to be a lot of exciting tennis things coming to the Bay Area too on the calendar that we're going to do fun things around.
So I have to run because Megan's here and we have serious business to do. But I have one question for you, Jess, before I drop per usual, which is, how likely do you believe it is that we'll be playing tennis on Mars in 2050?
2050. Give us 10 more years after the first person is there.
After 10 years, and then you spend 10 years building tennis courts.
Maybe you'll be the first person to play tennis on Mars, Jess.
All I know is that if anyone is playing tennis on Mars in the future, Racket will be on the ground with them with the exclusive access to that.
Epic.
That is so up their alley.
There you go.
Absolutely. And there could be a spin-off publication called Tennis Mars Today. And I bet people would sign up for that.
I will say very lastly, upon this news, I am now getting pitched by every vertical media company in the world. And I actually am going to look into this HVAC entrepreneur is really scrappy. And the HVAC entrepreneur has been hitting me up.
I love HVAC. You know what you need? That is Mars.
Okay. Bye, Sam. I want to round out. Thank God.
Finally, we got rid of him.
He's firing this morning. Must have had a good workout. I do also have to give a shout out to the information team for getting recognized with 8 Cebu awards. So just so everyone knows, Cebus are a very, very high honor in business journalism across many categories and all the major publications, the Journal, the Times, Bloomberg, submit and are very competitive. And we, believe it or not, won in the tech category, perhaps less surprising, but also the finance, investing, and auto category.
Wait, like autos as in cars?
Yes.
Oh,
with our some Tesla robotaxi coverage. So congrats to the whole team. If you see an information reporter, congratulate them.
Well, with the tariffs, there may not be American auto industry anymore.
Yeah, maybe. Morans, you guys have any news? I feel like I just shilled. So what's
I like your shilling, Jess.
No, we like your shilling.
I'm just going to promote our friend Amy Griffin, like you brought up, because she wrote a book called The Tell. It's a bestseller as of this week. It came out a couple days ago. And it's a really interesting story about what happens with trauma and life stories. And this woman, Amy, is just so incredible. So read The Tell. It's on Amazon. And we'll leave it there.
I will say it is rare to have Oprah's book club, Reese's book club, and Jenna's book club all pick. That's probably never happened, the same selection. And they picked The Tell. So so give it a read. Dave, what do you have for us before we wrap?
I have to go as well. I got to jump to another meeting.
Okay. Well, let's say farewell to everyone. To the listeners, thank you guys for joining us for another week. We do have some guests coming up. Raise your hand if you want to be a guest. Let us know. We appreciate all the support, and we'll see you here again next week for another episode of More or Less. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
See you guys later.
If you enjoyed this show, please leave us a virtual high five by rating it and reviewing it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Find more information about each episode in the show notes and follow us on social media by searching for @MoreOrLess, @DaveMorin, @Lesson, @JLesson, and as for me, I'm @Brit. See you guys next time.